Hola, buenas tardes a todo el mundo. Volvemos una semana más con el Café del Joso. Yo soy María, encantada. Para los que no me conozcáis, soy una exalumna de Escuela Joso y la presentadora de los Cafés del Joso. Y estoy muy contenta hoy de presentaros esta edición que es un poco especial porque no tenemos a un solo invitado, sino que tenemos a dos. Y es que está conmigo hoy Santi Casas. Hola, Santi.
Hola María.
Porque nos va a ayudar a hablar sobre por qué esta edición es especial, quiénes son las personas y entidades organizadoras detrás, por qué lo estamos haciendo en este formato. Os aviso que va a ser en inglés a partir de dentro de unos minutos, después de que Santi nos explique un poco cómo funciona todo. Y porque tenemos a Karrie, que es nuestra invitada súper ultra especial de hoy. Y bueno, comentaros que esto, para introduciros ahora a Santi, forma parte del programa del Comic Art Europe. em, y bueno, Santi, explícanos un poco de qué va todo esto.
Vale, es una iniciativa que viene desde las instituciones europeas y que está potenciada también por 4 entidades que nos hemos reunido. Y como, si quieres, como la lengua vehicular que solemos utilizar es la del inglés, si quieres ya saltamos y así también Karrie puede ir siguiendo un poco todo el proceso. Y a todos los que nos estáis
¿Vale?
escuchando, pues os pedimos perdón. María habla un inglés excelente, yo haré lo posible, lo que pueda.
Pues saltamos al inglés.
Fine, let's try.
Let's go.
For my sake.
Okay, I will try to talk a little bit about Comic Art Europe. What's this project? Well, it's a pilot project that tries to bring together 4 organizations representing different elements of the comic book ecosystem. We have festivals, we have museum, and we have an educational institution that is Escola Joso, that as us. It aims to strengthen the comic book sector in Europe by experimenting with collaborative working methods. It promotes transnational mobility of the artworks, the workers, and the creators as a means to significantly upscale the work. It prefigures an European comics community capable of positioning creators and organizations at European level, despite challenging the historical dominance of the American and the Japanese giants. The project will experiment with professional training, with creative assistance via grants and residencies, and also mediation around the transformational power of comics, in particular through literacy workshops with comics. Regarding the partners, we are the Lex International Comic Art Festival from England, the Lyon BD Organisation from Lyon, France, the Belgian Comic Strip Center from Brussels, and of course, we are Escola Joso from Barcelona.
And Santi, about the Escola Joso here
Yeah.
in Barcelona, what are the concrete activities that you as a school are organizing?
Okay, let's see. It's been very recent. A key aspect of the project is to professionalize new talents through training. And last July, Escola Joso was responsible for organization of the summer camp with 20 young artists from all over Europe. They had the opportunity to follow workshops and master classes with international students, with international and very renowned professionals. And these students received lectures about the industry, the artistic machinery, and all the segments of the comic production and dissemination. But the first project all started with a call for European comic authors to submit proposals of the theme Visions of the Future. 5 winners have obtained €5,000 scholarships and a 2-week residencies in one of the participating cities. Karrie Fransman, hello Karrie, is the resident at the Escola Joso. In her case, due to the current situation, she's doing the residency online. But next year, we'll have the pleasure of being able to have her among us. We hope so. We really hope so. Here in Barcelona, where she will present her projects. Thanks to this scholarship, this residency that supports the creation, the mobility, and promotes the professionals. We have been lucky to meet Karrie and her amazing work.
So, hi, Karrie.
Hi, I get to be in my bed. That's the good thing about doing a virtual residency.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
In a really beautiful bed, by the way. So Karrie, how would you define yourself and your how to say it? With the Escola Joso, what are your plans with the school now that you're doing this internship and everything? Can you talk a little bit? Can you talk us a little bit about you? Sorry.
So I define myself as a comic artist, comic creator. I write, I draw, and I love experimenting with the comic medium, thinking, how can you fit visual stories into books? How can you fit them into newspapers? How can you fit them into sculpture? How can you put them into virtual reality? How can you change the medium and play with visual storytelling, and what opportunities do each medium offer you? So I love experimenting. And when I heard about the Comic Art Europe residency, I was really excited because it talks about, looking at comics which deal with humanitarian issues, global issues, social issues. And this was right up my street. I've done a lot of comics about refugees, about gender, feminism, looking at different sort of social issues. And I actually never went to art college. I studied sociology and psychology.
That's impressive.
So I'm interested in that. And when I heard about this project, I was so excited because the UK should not be included in such lovely European funded projects anymore.
No way.
Bad. We should be thrown out. and I mean, in Europe, in Spain, they're the most amazing comic artists. In Europe, you see France, Belgium, they really love the comic medium. And in the UK, we're a little bit slower to embrace the cultural significance of comics. So for me, the project was perfect, very exciting. And then I wrote my application, I sent it off, and then I got the answer saying I had been accepted along with 4 other very talented artists, except I was pregnant. So that
is
I think I was making art and a baby at the same time. So then with COVID and being pregnant, I had to do the residency online, and thankfully Escola Joso was really accommodating, and it's worked out. And hopefully next year I will come to the festivals with the baby under one arm.
That would be great.
My VR headset under the other arm.
Yes.
We're waiting for you.
Because Karrie, now that you mentioned the VR set, and you mentioned also that you work with different media and you like to mix stuff and concepts and everything. With all your work and all that mixing, how would you define yourself?
Yeah, I usually say I like the word comic because it's very lowbrow, accessible, non-elitist. Anybody can create comics. I mean, comics in virtual reality is expensive. You need equipment. But comics on paper, you need pen, paper, and anybody can do it. I really love the term comic artist, but sometimes if people don't understand that, if I'm talking to publishers or I'm talking to newspapers in the UK, I say visual storyteller sometimes because I think it explains what I do a little bit. And here we've got a dead pig popping up on the screen.
It's a great start to show your work.
A slide to start on. I've got some slides to show you, but these are some of the ones from the residency. I don't know if I can share can I share the presentation and start at the beginning so I can show you some of the the ideas which I came up with for the residency. So the theme we were asked to respond to was visions of the future, and you know, we were in the middle of a pandemic, so the future wasn't very bright.
Of course.
And so I thought I wanted to explore utopias, the theme of utopias, because a lot of comics deal with dystopias, and a lot of films and literature. Some of the most famous books are about dystopias, and I was interested in a kind of the importance of dreaming about positive worlds, new worlds. So let me see. Is Jeannie sharing my screen? Can he share my presentation?
Whenever you ask for it, Janice
it should be open on the Google Meet. Then I can at least start from the beginning. So what I decided to do for my proposal was I said I want to look at utopias, the subject of utopias, but I want to do a comic in virtual reality. And TV icon. What's he saying? Oh, do I share it through there?
Yes,
we can try.
We forgot about everything that we were preparing before the interview.
Okay.
Forget about it.
It's a whole different software. Yeah.
I know. Okay, I thought we were doing two different ones. Well, here we go. I'm sorry. This is you can see all the slides on the side. So that's me with my VR headset. And the exciting thing about virtual reality is soon, not now, but soon, it will be a very accessible medium, and we will be looking at television, documentaries, movies through VR. And it's really exciting because it creates a immersive world. So the software I'm using to create a comic in VR is a Tilt Brush, which was created by Google, but then Google have given up on it, and it's become like open access software. So like it's now turned into Open Brush, and it's free to use, and you paint through the air. So if I paint one line, I can walk around the line. I can make the line really small. I can make it really huge. I can put my face through it. It's a bit like, the only way I can describe it is it's like painting an icing sugar through the air, but with your left hand on a hot day, because it's really difficult and the artwork, not quite right. It's a little bit shabby and tricky. You've got limited tools.
I wanted to ask about that. If it was really so hard, because the first time that I tried it, for me was crazy difficult. It was very, very hard. It's like a total new medium to work with.
Yeah, really hard. And I started doing virtual reality paintings in 2016 when the technology was 6 months old. I went to they had internet cafes in the 90s. It was a virtual reality cafe in London. And they said I could just come back and try and play with it. And it was so difficult. And you couldn't copy and paste. So every tree you had to do, and you got really strong because you're crawling around and moving when you draw. So at least it's good exercise, because comic people don't get much exercise. So when did you try it, Santi?
Well, the first time I've tried the Oculus. I tried Kill, and for me it was like trying to find out how to sculpt more than drawing. It was really crazy. There are a lot of new things to think about, but also a lot of new ways to explore. Like you said, the scale and the way you can jump into the picture. That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I find it really interesting. If you define comics as sequential art, it's taking moments of time and displaying it sequentially in order, then you can have anything. You can have images on an art gallery wall, which you walk through, or you can have a virtual landscape that you move through. And so for what I found useful when I'm creating VR comics is to create a path which you can walk along, and the story unfolds as you move along the path, basically. So
That's what I was gonna. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, what were you
Go
saying,
on.
Marina?
No, please.
No, you go. You had something more interesting.
No way. I was gonna tell you about it because I was gonna ask you what's your definition of comic, and you started like defining comic in your way, but also I was gonna ask like you're talking about this path. So do you think the element that would be key or like basic for any comic would be a path that you follow, whether if it's
Yeah.
how would you define comic?
Yeah,
How would you say, okay, this is the line and this is comic and this is not? Because, for example, a movie would be a comic.
Well, no, I think what's really important, first of all, very good question. I love this discussion. I can have it for hours. And people differ in their definition and what they think is important.
Yes.
For me, it's I usually go for Scott McCloud's sort of definition of what a comic is, and it's what juxtaposed pictorial or other images in a deliberate sequence intended to convey a message and or produce an aesthetic response in the reader. That's his definition. But
Okay.
I don't agree with it entirely. But I think, Will Eisner talked about sequential art, and I think it's a time crossed with art. So you're showing moments of time, and that could be panels, or it could be each on a page, the moments of time, or you could have it on a gallery wall like William Hogarth. But I think what's essential and why it's different from a movie or an animation is the reader controls it. The reader can move to the next page or not. The reader can spend 5 minutes looking at one panel or 3 minutes. Just like when you walk through a gallery, you can spend 3 minutes looking at each painting, or you can spend a long time. So it's very much controlled by the reader. And I think that's important because it's more interactive. So virtual reality, obviously, you can walk and move around the world you've created, but it's important to still have a beginning and a middle and an end, and to create that through the space, because if you want to tell a story, you need some sort of narrative arc. But I can still show you comics where they have no beginning, middle, end, and
nice.
Hyper comics. I don't know if Santi will come across this term, but it's when you have you can choose your own path, and there are many different ways you can go. So remember those books in the 90s where you used to choose your own adventure? So
exactly.
You're walking through the forest, and then a dragon appears. Can you go and fight him? If you want to fight him, go to page 39. If you want to run away, go to page 29. And you have a different option. So that isn't a specific order of the comic. So I think that the most important thing for comics is moments of time, displayed sequentially, basically. That would be my definition. I don't know, Santi, what do you think? What's your definition of comics?
I think that Maria has made the best question that I think that can be brought to this conversation. I've been ready to jump a few times because I was also trying to bring the juxtaposition of the images. One of the things that perhaps I'm going to play the devil now and ask about the relationship between the text, the letters, and the images, all that juxtaposition, and what happens inside the mind of the reader when we jump from one image to the other. How do you deal with all those things? And perhaps we can keep seeing more images from your.
Oh yeah, let me go and show you. I'll show you as I can cycle through some of these. So we've got here. This was my idea for what the project would be about. This is what I sent them, and I drew a little sketch, on my Procreate tablet. So I'll just read this to you so we know what the artwork is. So it's a stupid pun which doesn't work in Spanish. My subject is utopias, so I called my artwork Metopia versus Youtopia. So what you do is you put on your headset and you enter my head through my ear as we take a tour through my personal utopia, or the Metopia. This imagined society encompasses both autobiographical and comical elements, mixed in with religious, cultural, and historical elements, borrowed from some of the most famous utopias ever dreamt up, from Eden to Disneyland, Herland to cocaine, to the Big Rock Candy Mountain. But as we move through Karrie's utopian world, we begin to see it disintegrating, revealing the flip side of the vision and asking us to consider who loses out in one's personal utopian dream. So it's got what I call two sides to the artwork. They're a utopia, a metopia, and a utopia. And the utopia shows the people suffering from from my vision of the dream. And this is what it looked like when it was finished. Oh, let me just see. That one's not working. Let's move over there. That's a little wiggly version of it. So you can see one side is light and pink and one side's dark and kind of dark purple. So you start off by entering my ear. There you go. To the Metopia side. And this is a very early picture, so it's a bit scrappy, but you can see how scrappy it looks like I've painted it in icing sugar. I can draw better than this, but it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult to draw in virtual reality, especially when you're not using Unity or anything. But so that's the world. It's not quite finished there. So I've got some, this was the Thomas More Utopia. So I'll show you a few of the ideas where I borrowed different things from different people's utopia. So Thomas More came up with the term utopia in 1516 in his book, which I listened to for free on YouTube. So yay, YouTube. You can do the same. And it's about an imagined world, supposed to be somewhere in like South America, slightly socialist, but in like maybe exists in a monastery or something. It's got religious connotations. So the element which I liked from Thomas More's Utopia was, which I chose to include. And the term utopia means nowhere land. And this is interesting because it shows that, sorry, am I cutting the words off there? It means nowhere land. And it kind of is this idea that utopias are idealistic and dream worlds, which exist only in your head, which I think is important. I think utopias need to be dreamt up. It's important for us to dream, right? So he said in his world, private property is abolished. There is nothing within the house that is private or any man's own, writes Moore. Every 3 months, the people pile all their things into the marketplace and anyone can come along and take what they need, like a recycling center. So I created a big pile of free stuff, which I like this concept. So then, I'm hopping around a bit. This is cocaine, which sounds like the drug, appropriately.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
But it isn't the drug, it's a world you can live in. And it was originally imagined in the 1300s, I think, in Ireland in a poem. But this was then painted by Pieter Bruel, I can't pronounce his name, the elder, in 1567. And he imagined this world with lazy people because they don't have to work and their food grows on trees. And you can see on the top left, this man has built his house with pies on the roof. And he's opening his mouth because the bird is just going to fly in. And over here, everybody's lazy. It's kind of a critique of this utopian dream. There are these pigs running around who already have been roasted and have knives in their back to be eaten, which is horrible. Especially for any
a little bit.
and like a goose lying down, like eat me. And the man is crawling through a big cloud of pudding. Apparently he's eaten a hole through the pudding. So I created some of these elements. I have the pig there with the forks in their back ready to be eaten. But then in the dystopian side of the story, you can see all the lazy people there who are just sleeping in the trees. You can sort of see them. And I've also got the suicidal pigs, which is what we were seeing image of before.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a horror movie. Imagine all these animals who wanted to die. And this one hung himself because he didn't have a tasty enough leg. So there.
Okay.
The dark side. What can I say?
No, it's
No
now
problem.
that I see the.
Here
Sorry,
in
Santi.
Spain, here in Spain, perhaps we are not so used to meet paintings from Bruegel, but he was very influenced by El Bosco, that is really known here in Spain, and all that kind of stuff that I think that is also really influential in people that likes illustration and comics, all these oniric walls. So I think that we can relate to that.
I know, I probably shouldn't have put them in. I'm just trying. It was quite fun, like, because you get to do the good thing about comics is you get to do all the intellectual research and the art history research and the political research, and then you can sort of forget it and say, yeah, that would be cool. I want to throw some edible pigs in there. I'm gonna
Sure.
add a marshmallow tree. I like marshmallows. You know, you get to be serious and you get to be a child at the same time. So. I'll show you a little bit more. I've got them. Hieronymus Bosch, we all love. Who wouldn't love Hieronymus Bosch?
El Bosco.
So this is the Garden of Earthly Delight in 1510. So on the left is Eden. In the middle is well, it's not really Earth as it is, but it's people sinning sort of on Earth. And then on the right, dystopia of what they'll have to face in hell for all their lustful sinning. Now, definitely and arguably the best panel is the middle one. You should zoom in on it. It's crazy. But I was looking at Youtopia, so I had to look on the Eden side, which is on the left, which is a little less crazy, a bit more conservative, but it's got these cool little monsters. So I decided to borrow some of them and put them in my Youtopia because they seemed like fun. Not for the frogs.
Exactly.
So yeah, the frog suffered.
Yes.
And then I've got I also wanted to put Lilith, who is in Eden. She was Adam's first wife before he met Eve. There's some really old Jewish texts when they're kind of satirical, and they talked about how Lilith was created from the same rib as Adam, and she refused to lie underneath him, and then flew off into the mountains and shacked up with an evil sort of demon, and then Adam got Eve, who was nice and obedient. So Lilith is sort of portrayed as this often a snake woman, and she becomes a snake who then tempts Eve with the apple in some of these depictions. So this is Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel with Lilith on the tree, and Lilith tempting Adam and Eve in Notre Dame Cathedral on the right. So I thought she's just such an awesome character, and she's kind of adopted as a bit of a feminist character now. And I like the idea of her being in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I thought that if I'm going to take something from Eden, I'd like to take the knowledge of the difference between good and evil, because I didn't want everyone to just be living in this idealized world where they didn't know. So I put her in there, and she's, instead of just apples in the tree, she's also got books, because I think that's knowledge. So she's like a badass snaky librarian.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Give her a Google. She's really interesting to read about if you want to. Feel free to interrupt me with a question, or I'll keep going.
No, please. Well, I was going to say that you have a lot of cultural and artistic references.
Yeah,
it's impressive. Like, because you said that you never went to art school or anything. So all these references, I guess they come from curiosity or just like love for art. Google also, yeah, but like to Google that, you must have like an interest, or I don't know, like curiosity.
I mean, it's just nice, isn't it? One of the nicest things about being an artist and a storyteller is you can go on like a deep dive. So you read about utopias, and then you read about different utopias, and then you go down a wormhole, and you can ignore the boring bits.
Yes, totally. But you also created like this huge, your whole other concept of utopia and dystopia and everything, like just like mixing everything you liked and everything you researched, and I think it's really fun and interesting. And I can see that you had like a lot of fun also.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I
like
mean,
it's so exciting to see you like talking about the little stuff, like this little Eve with the books and the apple and the knowledge and the references. I don't know, it's really nice.
that's great. No, I just like, you know what? I'm not very good at concentrating on just one thing. I like to throw in the best bits of everything, and I thought this was such a good opportunity to have a kind of a tour around different. And I mean, I left out loads of utopias which I would love to fit in. I couldn't. The file size was too big. The computer couldn't handle such a big file, so I had to stop.
Yes.
So I'll show you some more. This is a big rock candy mountain. I'll try and sing it for you. It goes in
when you talk about all this stuff, or all the technical stuff that you need to be ready to handle, I cannot keep thinking about that Karrie from the past that was making really cool stuff with the paper and decides to jump to the VR. There are things that you have to give up from that time to work in this new medium, or there are things that you have found out that are really new and cool that make this coming medium bigger and more interesting?
Yeah, I think I love hopping around medium. The last project which I did before this one was paper pop-up. So, you know, really different. And I knew nothing about paper moving books and, you know, pop-up books. And I got a project and I could work on that and learn about that. And so for me, virtual reality isn't everything. It's just a new medium which, you know, exercises my brain in a new way. And I've got to be honest, I have a husband who is a programmer and my tech support, Jonathan Plackett. So we collaborate sometimes on projects which are very tech heavy. And certainly on this one, I wouldn't have had the confidence to take on a VR project had I not got him upstairs to go, John, Jonathan, my computer's crashed. My file won't work. How do I do this? So he really helps me out with that. But it's a really new medium. There's nothing online about, you know, how to, you know, if you have a problem on OpenBrush, there's maybe like one entry on the whole of Google with anyone discussing this problem. So it's really new, and a lot of the tech we're using is even in like the beta version, so they've not developed it properly. I hope the thing I love the most about comics is that they're accessible and not elitist. The problem with virtual reality is it's still elitist. It's still expensive. You need a headset. You know, they made cardboard headsets and things, but
it's the same.
We have to wait until the price comes down and it's cheap and we have internet cafes with virtual reality, which will happen definitely in the future. But right now it's more at a stage where I experiment and tell people, but it's not as accessible as paper comics. And I love paper comics for being a socialist medium.
That's cool.
So,
that's cool.
I was going to ask you, Karrie, you were talking about like now about hopes and all this like, in the paper and the mediums and everything. Like, what are your hopes? What do you hope to get from the experience of your internship in the school, in Escola Joso? Because like you are also talking about how like not much information there is around the internet about BRs and all the brushes and everything. And so obviously it's like a not like super popular medium or technique to learn, like that you can learn to a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
So what do you expect? What are your hopes like to learn, to experience with the internship in Escola Joso?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, you know, primarily, it's such an amazing opportunity to connect with other European artists, cultural organizations. You know, I feel with COVID and with Brexit, the UK has detached themselves from an opportunity to be global and to collaborate and to learn from other people and to form connections. So this sort of project, I think, will be more and more unusual in the UK. So I very much cherish that on one side. And then on a practical side, I think what I like to do is with comics is say, there's new ways of doing it. Let's play, let's explore. How can we envision what comics could be like in the future? I strongly believe that virtual reality is how we will all be looking at television in the next, 10 years. And it's amazing. It's amazing to put a headset on and to be in another world. It's really exciting. And I know, Escola Joso already has a headset and the opportunity for the students to try virtual reality painting. And more, this will become something which people can play with and create with. It will become a tool which is more accessible, like Photoshop is now. And yeah, so I think I just want to, I want to connect with other creators, but I want to also demonstrate the flexibility and the excitement of comics as a medium to do all sorts of different, tell all sorts of different stories, engage people in all sorts of different ways of thinking. So yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of comics. I'm a comic geek. Santi as well, I think, right?
Yeah, a lot, and I have to thank you to help us to spread the love that you have for the comics and the love that you have for new technologies and for trying new things with this medium that we all love so much. It's great to have new voices that really push the limits of our narratives, and I think that it's cool to take a look at projects like yours.
Yeah, thank you. That's really sweet. I mean, there's so many great examples. I wish I could talk about all the experimental comics which I see out there, because I always keep a list of people making comic sculptures or architectural comics or comic performances, or mixing choreography and comics. There's so much exciting different ways of taking the medium. And I think because the medium is a young medium, I mean, yeah, okay, it goes back to hieroglyphics, it goes back to cave paintings on the wall. It's not that young, but in some ways it is young. And I think we all have the opportunity to play with the medium and to see it in different ways and to take it into different areas. So I kind of hope that I will just be demonstrating one way of doing it, but that the students and people watching will be inspired to say, wait, can I make a comic on a cereal box? Or can I make a comic on a shoe? Or, in a house? and try playing with different things.
So, Karrie, if you agree, I think that we both can ask Maria to invite us to another coffee another time. To keep
better than a cup of water. I don't even have a coffee.
That's awesome. I love
wait,
that.
I'm just going to put this slide on before. I'm not sure how long we've got, but that's my that's me and a blue bear. But aside from being me and a blue bear, it's got my my Instagram, my Twitter, and my website where you can see all sorts of different things. I don't just do technology, I do all sorts of comic experiments. But if you have any questions about anything, I'm really happy to chat on Twitter and Instagram.
Great.
Thank you so much, Karrie. Really.
And thank you all. And a huge thank you.
No, it was really interesting.
Europe and to Escola Joso for giving me the opportunity to play, because I would be having a very boring last few weeks if it wasn't for them.
It's really amazing to see. It's really different from everything we've done in this format and everything. And everything you said, I think it was really interesting. And Santi, I'm sure he agrees with what I'm saying.
Right.
And it's really refreshing, I think, to talk about comics and arts this way. It's just really different. So I really appreciate that, Karrie.
Thank you so much, and lovely chatting to you, Maria and Santi. I hope that we can all have some tapas and in lovely sunny Barcelona next year at the festival.
I'm sure we can do that.
I'm so bored of London. I am bored of London. You guys can come visit me in London, but I am fed up.
But you want to get out of London.
I want to get out.
You want to get out of London. Just come here, and we'll definitely do that. So
we will be waiting for you. on YouTube.
I hope we see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Lovely to see you guys.
Thank you, Karrie. I hope you have a nice day. And thank you to everyone watching the video, the streaming, or in YouTube or anything. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you so much to Santi, again, for being with us
María,
and
muchísimas
explaining
gracias.
everything. Y lo voy a decir en español, gracias a todas las organizaciones que están detrás de esto, gracias a Cómic, Comic Arts Europe. Y bueno, muchísimas gracias eso a todos los que nos estáis viendo en casa y nos vemos en la próxima edición de Café con la Joso.
Pues hasta la próxima.
Adiós. Bye, Karrie.
See you.